Hi Montebello, I am Kearsley Rand. I live in Building 1. I moved here in November and I am going to show you not so much how to make a cake, but how to decorate one. My son, who has a new girlfriend, wanted us to bond and sent us over to the Milk Bar, which is a fancy bakery in DC that does classes, and I'm going to show you how to decorate. So I am going to make for you a lemon rosemary half naked cake. So the easiest part, of course, is making the buttercream. And this is really just a plain old buttercream. This is butter that what makes it fancy is I took 2 sticks of butter and some sprigs of rosemary, and I boiled it and let it simmer for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then I let it sit. So this butter actually tastes like rosemary, but just a little bit, so not too much. Oh, I forgot to get my milk out. Hold on, I need my tablespoon of milk. Whoops. This is my first cooking show, so you're going to have to bear with me just a tiny bit. Okay, so this is really a traditional buttercream, and like I said, it is the only fancy thing about it is that there is rosemary, which of course at the end you pick out the rosemary because that would be disgusting to find hunks of rosemary in your buttercream. So the buttercream is pretty simple. 2 sticks of butter and 3 1/4 cups of confectioner's sugar. Whoops! Gonna have a lot of powder here. And just a tiny little splash of milk, like about a tablespoon. Let's hope I didn't put in too much. Pardon me? Oh, and that's my dog, Mo. He will not be cooking with us, but he'll be watching to make sure I do it right. So the buttercream is just, like I said, a very, very, very basic buttercream. And it's just confectioner's sugar and butter. And if you feel that it is not spreadable, because this butter has been sitting out at room temperature, just add a teeny bit more milk. So this is feeling like it's kind of dry. So always with confectioner's sugar, just do a teeny tiny bit of milk at a time, because it will go from not thin enough to way too thin very, very quickly. I'm using this table because I wanted you to be able to see straight on what I was doing. It actually is a hand-me-down from my son. I think it was used for beer pong. It did not make the trip to Chicago. Ooh, there's a lot of butter still at the bottom, but I still feel like it's not thin enough. This is, like I said, an adventure. We've not done this before, so let's try and thin it up a little bit more. So the cool part about this is actually going to be the decorating. This is just a totally, totally basic buttercream. We're getting there. We're almost getting to spreading consistency. The cake I use, which we're going to do next also, is, it could be any kind of cake. I actually cheated, and it's just a box cake, but we're going to fancy it up a little bit, so that when you take it to somebody's house, they'll be like, oh, that is so impressive. She's the greatest cook. Or he. I don't want to be sexist. Okay, now we're starting to get more of a spreadable consistency here. I'm getting closer. So now when I add milk, I'm going to do a teeny bit at a time. But I can smell the rosemary. It's kind of good. Heidi, do you want to smell it? Heidi is my filmer. Today, my camera person. Heidi, do you want to turn the camera around and say hi?
No.
Heidi does not want to turn the camera around and say hi. I don't know why. She is, if you all ever go to the Scottish Walk Parade, you may have noticed Queen Victoria riding on the back of a convertible, and that would be Heidi. So even though she's pretending to be shy, don't let that fool you for 1 second. Okay, I'm almost there. If you can see, it's still a tiny bit thick to spread. I don't know why it's taking so long and so hard, but anyhow, teeny bit more milk. Because this isn't actually even the fun part. I really want to show you the decorating part, because that's what, and I don't mean you have to use like fancy like, you know, piping tools or anything. This is really decorating for idiots, which is why I'm especially fond of it. Okay, I'm just about there. I'm going to do a teeny bit more milk again. 15 minutes from now, you'll still be going. She's still doing a teeny bit more milk. We could watch TV in this time. Okay, now I feel like I have real frosting here. So see, that's like frosting consistency. Easy peasy. All right, that's my frosting. So I'm gonna set that aside. And because I'm also gonna be doing a demonstration on salmon, excuse the crowdedness of the kitchen because I have everything out for everything. All right, so now here's the easy part for the cake. This is your cake. You are just making your cake in a plain old sheet cake. What could be easier? So, this handy dandy thing that they had at the Milk Bar, which they have on Amazon, is going to be both your cutter and your form for the cake. So all you're going to do is you're going to cut out a circle, easy. Then you're going to cut out another circle, and this is going to be a 3-layer cake. But here's the cool part. You are going to actually use these scraps to make the bottom layer. So here's my thing, this fancy thing. So, you put this on a plate. And I can get this out of the way for right now too. So here we are on our plate. And you have this, I think it's silicone, I don't know what it is, but it's...
Let's see the bag.
Also from Amazon. And I've made probably about a dozen cakes, and this plastic roll keeps on going. So you take your little plastic roll, and you're going to go about the shape of the pan, the width of the pan. This is kind of scooching open, but we'll shut it in a minute. So it's about that long, so I'm just going to cut it. So at the Milk Bar, where I learned this fancy schmancy technique, they do a lot of things where they're like flavored with like cereal milk. But since we're going to do lemon, cereal milk would be gross. So we're going to kind of soften up our stuff. That doesn't want to stay shut. I'm going to get a little clip out. Hold on one second. Let's try this. Not quite wide enough. Bear with me one second. Again. Bring out a couple of clips with mine. It seems to want to pop open. It hasn't done that before, but of course it's doing it now. Okay, there, that's good. So, I have all these scraps here. As you can see, I have 2 rounds. Whoops. We won't be using that scrap. Okay, so we have some scraps here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to smush them in here, which is so easy, right? So, whoever sees the bottom layer of your cake, this is exactly the wording that they told me at the Milk Bar. Who sees the bottom of your cake? Nobody. So we're just going to squish these in here. And I'll let Heidi take a picture of it in a minute. So to make it a little more squishable, they used their, what they call cereal milk. It was kind of like sweet vanilla milk. But anyhow, we're not doing that because it would not be good with lemon. So what we're going to do is I had a little lemon simple syrup that I made for cocktails actually. But all it is sugar dissolved in boiling water until it gets to be like a syrup and a little lemon juice in it. So I'm just going to take a couple of spoonfuls. And this will keep my cake nice and moist. And it'll let me squish it down. So, as you can see, voila, my first layer. So I'm going to take my frosting I just made, and I'm going to put a third of it. Whoops. I'm going to put a third of it on my first layer. So there's pretty much frosting here, so you can be pretty generous. So just blob it on there. And this is so much easier than when you have to do like some kind of fancy frosting thing because nobody really sees. And because it's half naked, you can get away with it. And it doesn't even matter if you get some crumbs up there because, again, nobody's going to see it. It's in the middle of the cake. Not doing a very good job or a very neat job here. Just pile some more on until you have your first layer covered. And then, because it's a lemon cake and I like anything lemony, I'm just going to use some pre-made lemon curd. Okay. And I'm just going to blop it in the middle here. I like things lemony. Okay, and we're just going to kind of spread that around. And it doesn't have to be perfect because nobody can see what's inside here. So Heidi, will you take a picture of that sort of smooshed around in there? All right, now we just take whichever is the least pretty layer, because the prettier one we'll put on top. And all we do is we shove this in and we press it down so that this is going to make all our frosting even anyhow. So even if we didn't do a great job, now it's even. So we're going to take our lemon simple syrup again and throw some on the top. And we're going to repeat what we did last time. More frosting. Smoosh it around. I tend not to be very good at dividing in thirds, so sometimes my cake doesn't look so perfect, but that's okay. So we're going to smoosh this around in here too. This looks like I'm making a big mess, but when I actually take off the sleeve, you're going to be like, wow, it actually came out looking pretty good. Even though, as you can see, I'm making a complete mess of the frosting right here. Damn it. Okay, we're almost there. Put some of that there. Woo! Again, very forgiving. No one will see once the next layer's on. We'll put a little bit more on top there. Heidi, who has had lots of cakes that I've made, is probably going, oh, this is what she does.
This is what I was eating?
It's way messier than I thought. Okay, so now, ooh, it tastes good and rosemary-ish. I'm going to throw some more lemon curd on top, which gives it a good lemon taste. Okay, and then, just like before, we have our final layer. I'm trying to brush off the crumbs a little bit so maybe it'll spread better. Maybe we'll do the other side. It doesn't really matter. We smoosh that one down. Give it a good push. Okay. Now we're not going to do the lemon curd on this one right away. Oh, actually we will. I take it back. We will. We're going to do our lemon, simple syrup lemon again. And this will just keep it nice and moist. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Oh, sorry, Mom. We're going to do our frosting again. Not a very good spreader, as you can see. Okay. What I'm going to do at the end is I'm going to put some lemon curd on top so that this whole messiness looks like maybe I meant to do it on purpose. And I suggest that you should always try and fake it. Or you can act like you're supposed to have bits of cake in the frosting, and maybe that was intentional too. Like, oh, that's the new cool way to do it. Who would know? No one, unless you tell them. And I would never. All right, so we're almost there. I know you're thinking it looks very messy, but it won't look messy when I take this top off. You're going to be super impressed. So technically what I would do is I would put this in the fridge and let it set before I kind of unveil it, but I'm going to let you see it. So that's kind of messy looking, but it's okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little blob of rosemary, of lemon curd in the middle so that it looks pretty, like there's a little circle of it. And then, because it does have rosemary in the frosting, and sometimes people like to know what's in something, I like to put a little sprig of rosemary on top. Not that they're supposed to eat it, but it's merely a garnish. I'm going to put a little sprig of rosemary on top. Like that. Maybe I'll put two. And, although you think I've made this super messy thing, what's going to happen is this is going to sit in the fridge, and when it gets unveiled, it's going to look like a cake like that, which is actually kind of fancy looking. And that is my lemon rosemary cake.